Let me tell you, there are days you wake up and you just know something's about to go sideways. And then there are days you wake up to the smell of your barn burning, your cattle poisoned, and the queen of the local HOA standing at the edge of your field like she's ready to take over the world. That's a special kind of day, right there. And it's the one that finally taught me the true meaning of the phrase, never underestimate a farmer. I've been working this land for over 40 years, started with 50 acres I inherited from my granddad. Built it up with my wife one season at a time, penny by penny, and a whole lot of sweat and hope. We wore holes in our boots before we ever wore holes in our luck. Quiet life, nothing fancy, beat-up Ford shirts that could tell stories, and a house that smells like bread, hay, and coffee in the morning. That's all we ever needed. Most folks around here just knew me as that farmer down the road, the guy with the cattle, the corn, the work ethic you could set your watch to. What they didn't know, not even the gossip queens at the diner, was that over the decades I'd quietly scooped up about 800 acres, little bits here and there land. Nobody else wanted land, folks said wasn't worth the taxes. Turned out it was worth a whole lot more. It all started when the city folks rolled in 2 miles over, but might as well have been another planet. Some big developer with more money than sense built a luxury country estate subdivision, all pastel paint and fake picket fences, calling it Whispering Oaks or some nonsense. 30 cookie-cutter mansions, each one pushing $1 million. They wanted the charm of rural living, but with latte security cameras and zero actual dirt. At first I figured live and let live, they're far enough away not to bother us, right? Oh, buddy, was I wrong. Soon as the paint dried, the complaints started pouring in. First it was the rooster crowing, then the smell of manure, then the sound of my old John Deere at dawn. They called the county about unacceptable farm odors. The inspector came, sniffed the air, told them, "This is a farm, folks. Maybe you should have checked a map." Thought that'd be the end of it. But nah, they doubled down, formed an HOA, and started thinking they were kings and queens of the countryside. Now here's the kicker. Turns out that fancy new development, it's boxed in on 3 sides by my land, plus a couple of those problem parcels I picked up cheap after the last farmer called it quits. They thought they were an island of luxury, but really they were a speck of suburbia floating in a sea of cows and corn. Didn't bother telling them. Didn't see the point. I was happy to keep to myself and let them figure it out if ever. That all changed one Tuesday morning. I was out checking my cattle, minding my own, when I see her striding across my field, white pants, high heels, enough perfume to choke a goat. She's waving her arms like she's conducting the Vienna Philharmonic. "Excuse me, you there? Stop." I stop. She stumbles up, asks if I own the farm. I tell her yes. She announces herself president of the HOA as if that's supposed to impress me. She gets straight to the point, tells me they're expanding the HOA to maintain standards and that I should join, pay dues, follow their rules, keep my property tidy. I couldn't help but laugh. "Ma'am, this is a farm, not a golf course. You really want to regulate cattle and corn?" Her face turned a color I can only describe as expensive lipstick rage. She goes on about property values and the smell and the noise, says my farm's an embarrassment, that it's dragging down their investments. "We have connections," she says, "and your operation isn't as protected as you think." You ever have someone threaten you in your own backyard? It's got a flavor all its own. I told her the conversation was over and that she should see herself back to her little kingdom. She was so mad she nearly tripped over a cow pie on the way out, would have paid money to see that. But man, if you think that was the end of it, you don't know HOAs. Over the next few months, I got hit with every complaint you can imagine: tractors too loud, livestock too close to their fence, irrigation affecting their water pressure. Every time some county inspector showed up, poked around, shrugged, and left, I was always in compliance. Then came the petitions, the neighborhood meetings, the sideways looks at the feed store. Most local folks just laughed them off. I tried to ignore it, but it was like getting pecked by 1,000 chickens, annoying. But you don't really bleed until you look down and see what they've done. Then came the night the black SUVs rolled up my driveway, 6 HOA enforcement guys, all matching shirts and bad attitudes with the president leading the charge. She served me with a stack of paperwork so thick it could have stopped a 22. Rules about lawn heights, livestock limits, community noise ordinances, and a $500 initiation fee to join plus daily fines if I didn't comply. We have support from county zoning, one of the muscle-bound fellas said, and we can make things very difficult if you don't cooperate. Is that a threat? I asked. The president just smirked. We know people. Your little farm could be shut down with one phone call. I looked at my wife over dinner that night and said, Honey, you ever feel like we're living in an episode of The Twilight Zone? She just laughed and said, Rich people problems. They'll get bored eventually. Only they didn't. Things escalated. Mailbox vandalized, fences cut. So the cows got loose. Guess who got fined for that? Anonymous calls to the EPA health department, even the local news. Every time the authorities showed up, they left shaking their heads. I was losing more money in lost time and repairs than anything else, but what broke me was coming home one afternoon to find 12 of my cattle dead and the rest sick. The vet said it was poison antifreeze mixed in their feed. Lost 35 grand easy. Not long after, the barn went up in flames, arson, but no proof. Another 50 grand gone up in smoke. My wife was crying, my insurance was slow rolling the claims, and I was ready to burn the whole subdivision to the ground myself. The next day, the president showed up again. Accidents happen on farms, she said, staring at the ashes of my barn. Maybe you should join the HOA, could help prevent things like this. I told her to leave. She said the offer expired at the end of the week, and after that, things might get even more difficult. My wife looked at me that night, eyes red, and said, They think we're powerless, that we'll just give in. She was right. They saw an old farmer, not a businessman, with land insurance and a stubborn streak. Let me back up a sec. I own all the land around that development, and I had an idea. Over the next months, I called in favors, worked with the county, filed the right paperwork, sold 4 parcels of my land at rock-bottom prices to some pig farming friends, with one condition: no resale to anyone in the HOA ever, and run those farms at full glorious capacity. If you've never lived near a commercial hog farm, let me tell you, there's a smell that'll knock the gold fillings out your teeth and a noise that'll keep you up nights. By next spring, those 4 farms were humming 2,000 pigs, singing the song of their people trucks, rolling in at dawn, the wind carrying that aroma straight into the HOA president's imported drapes. Property values cratered. Houses went up for sale. Nobody bought. The president called, screamed, threatened. I told her, Sorry, I don't own those parcels anymore. Maybe you should have been nicer. That was about when she snapped. One afternoon, she marched up to my wife in the garden, this time waving a gun. You're going to fix this, she screamed. My wife tried to calm her, but the woman was past reasoning. She pulled the trigger, shot my wife right there in the shoulder. My world stopped. The sheriff rolled up just in time, hauled the president off in cuffs while she babbled about stress and ruined lives. My wife lived tougher than any of us, had surgery, and came home with a steel plate and a story she'll tell the grandkids. Turns out shooting a farmer's wife is about the dumbest move you can make, especially when you've already left a trail of threats, antifreeze receipts, gas cans, and enough digital breadcrumbs to choke a lawyer. She went down for attempted murder, arson, animal cruelty, and every other felony the DA could find in the book. Her husband left her. The HOA burned through their reserves on lawyers, and soon enough the whole thing disbanded in disgrace. I made sure deed restrictions, restraining orders clauses in every property sale that ban her and her cronies from ever setting foot near my farm again. Half those luxury houses sold at a loss. The ones who stayed learned to keep to themselves and enjoy the actual country life, smells, tractors and all. My friend's hog farms still run strong with fancy new odor controls, and the air's not so bad these days. My wife and I rebuilt bigger and better. The president's in prison. The HOA's dead, the land's safe, Sometimes the best revenge is just outlasting your enemies and making sure they can never hurt your family, your home, or your way of life again. Now let me ask you this. Who was in the right here? Have you ever had to stand your ground when everyone counted you out? Drop your story, your thoughts, your own HOA nightmares down in the comments, because I know I can't be the only one. And hey, if you believe justice means fighting for what's yours, hit that like button and let's keep these stories rolling.